Mr. Speaker, usually when something is killed, it stays dead. But just like in a bad zombie movie, some bad earmarks refuse to die and return to life time and time again as wasteful spending. That's what's happened with this bill and what this amendment corrects. There isn't an American taxpayer out there who hasn't heard of the bridge to nowhere. The bridge to nowhere has become synonymous with government waste. What Americans may be shocked to find out is that a significant portion of the $454 million that Congress provided through 8 separate earmarks and safety lieu is still available for Alaska to build these bridges. We fix that with this amendment and eliminate these return from the dead earmarks with this amendment to save taxpayers money, restore credibility to Congress. Although Congress has tried to stop these bridges to nowhere by giving Alaska the authority to use its earmark funds, and Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
Gentleman will suspend. The House will be in order. Gentleman may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, Alaska has still used $71 million of federal funds provided under safety lieu to continue work on 2 bridges to nowhere. Sadly, Alaska's earmarked bridges to nowhere, like zombies eating the brains of taxpayers, refuse to die. Frankly, like most Americans, I thought federal funding for the bridges to nowhere was a thing of the past. ABC News reported in 2007 the bridge to nowhere is gone. This bridge has collapsed even before it was built after an onslaught of angry editorials, furious anti-pork citizen groups, and caustic jokes on late-night TV. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the zombie has climbed from its grave and is terrorizing American taxpayers to the tune of $180 million in deficit spending to build 2 bridges, one of which is a bridge that, from an engineering perspective, is compared to the Golden Gate Bridge to an island with 50 people. Now, but wait, we're not calling it an earmark because we've abolished earmarks in this Congress. So instead, we're taking Republican earmarks from previous sessions of Congress and calling them something else. Is that the new spending plan? Is that how we're going to balance the budget? Now, many Republicans in this body have used the bridges to nowhere. Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
Gentleman is correct. The House will be in order. The gentleman may proceed.
Thank you. Many members of this body has used as an example of wasteful spending. My colleague and friend from Texas, Mr. Neugebauer, stated that while some earmarks fund worthy projects, there's some, such as the infamous bridge to nowhere, that are wasteful uses of taxpayer money. End quote. My friend from Indiana, Mr. Pence, said all spending bills passed in 2007 included 11,000 earmarks. Those earmarks included wasteful spending for items such as a $20 million ferry in Alaska benefiting 40 people. That, of course, followed the infamous bridge to nowhere from the 2005 highway bill. End quote. So here we have a wasteful expenditure that not only had its origin as an earmark, but has been used by fiscal hawks from both sides of the aisle as the very example of a wasteful earmark. If Alaska wants to build a bridge to nowhere or a road to nowhere or a road to somewhere, a bridge to somewhere, go ahead and do it. Just do it without federal tax dollars. My colleague Mr. Wahlberg from Michigan said taxpayers are tired of their hard-earned money paying for things like a bridge to nowhere in Alaska, fruit fly research in France, and a hippie museum in New York. Well, this bill doesn't fund a fruit fly museum in France or a hippie museum. But unless we act by passing this amendment, it will allow $183 million of taxpayer money to be spent for bridges for nowhere, wasteful spending we can't afford. Despite claims that the bridge to nowhere earmarks were eliminated, Alaska has spent over $71 million federal money. You know, in 2006, when the Republicans lost their majority and entered the minority, Mr. Canner, the leader, said, Republicans have become a party of the bridge to nowhere. Well, Mr. Speaker, it looks like too little has changed. And unless this amendment passes, the Republicans once again will become a party lost on the bridge to nowhere. This motion rescinds all remaining funds, about $183 million, provided for the planning, design, and construction of the 2 bridges under safety lieu. In addition, the amendment prohibits the use of the funds. Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
Gentleman is correct. The House will be in order. Gentleman may proceed.
This is a very simple choice. There's no politics in this. We're not changing other parts of the bill, trying to catch people up. We're not putting up a vote to trap people for 30-second spots to say they're for pornography like has been done in previous sessions while the bill is gutted elsewhere. What we're simply providing is a clean vote on the bridge to nowhere. According to the CBO, this motion will reduce the deficit by $160 million by eliminating funding for these two bridges, nothing else. Listen, for us to have the credibility as a Congress to make the tough cuts we need to balance the budget, to work together to pass a CR that cuts spending, to reduce spending in future years, Congress must have moral standing. Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
Gentleman is correct. Gentleman may proceed.
Continuing to provide funding to be used for these bridges, the infamous Alaska bridges to nowhere, which most Americans like me thought were already dead, is not the way for Congress to build trust with the American people. So we have a choice today. We can vote to...
The House will be in order. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have a choice. We can vote to continue these most egregious earmarks, or we can stand by our words, our vows, and our values and vote for this amendment and finally put an end to wasteful spending and pet projects. Let me close with some words of wisdom from my colleague from West Virginia, Shelley Moore Capito. Quote, "The days of members slipping in the bridge to nowhere in the dead of night are over," end quote. I urge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to shine the light of day.
Gentleman's time has expired.
On this insidious example of pork, remove it from the bill and pass the amendment. I yield back the balance of my time.